Made possible through support from PASCO, Personal Assistance Services of Colorado, the ARC of Aurora, CCDC, Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, and Developmental Pathways. A Think Change training.
Aloha! This is Jeff.
And I am Petrie, and we are advocates with the ARC of Aurora. We are here today to offer a training through our Think Change program on a specific subject as it pertains to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Obviously, we're having a little bit of fun with it today. Jeff, what do you want to share with them that we're talking about?
I want to talk about goals. I want to talk about objectives. I want to talk about data collection.
As it pertains to the IEP, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
I'm going to kick things off.
Okay.
Let's jump into IEP goals. There's a couple things you want to know about an IEP goal. I feel the most important thing about the goals, or things about the goals, would be each goal needs to be actually measurable. Exactly. It can't be an abstract concept. It's got to be something concrete and measurable. The goal needs to be specific. If it's broad, what's that really going to do to help? That data, if broad data doesn't really help get to the heart of the matter.
It's absolutely true.
The goal needs to be realistic too. You can't have a goal that's 4 years down the road. These goals are meant to be accomplished within a year. So if your goal can't be accomplished within a year, that's not a realistic goal. And let's think again. Let's come up with something better. And the goals also have to be, on the same token, they have to be time limited. You can't have a goal, like I said, that would be from 4 years down the road. The goal needs to be based on that IEP plan year. And if you have a goal that's met after 3 months of the IEP, has been in effect, reach back out to the team, or the team should actually be reaching out to you saying, we already met this goal, we're going to adjust this goal. And that would, require a small meeting. It doesn't have to be everyone necessarily on the IEP team, but the person that is writing that goal and the case manager and you, and just go over the change to the goal and adopt that goal.
Absolutely.
Because if you already hit your goal after 3 months, what's the point in going after a goal you've already hit? It should adjust. And to me, that means that goal wasn't the right goal. And you need to take into consideration present levels when you're creating this goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're looking for achievement, right? I mean, you're looking for the student to be able to excel and grow within that goal to meet that goal. And part of that, the function of those goals, not only is academics, but to help the students with confidence. So it's really important that there are all of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah, and within that goal, you have objectives. So I like to think about it as, you're looking at a staircase, and on top of the staircase is the goal. Like, hey, I'm the goal. And each step is the objective towards that goal.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
If a goal, though, has too many objectives, I say that's not a very good goal. You need to break it down. That might mean two separate goals out of that.
Yeah.
So
less is more.
Yeah. And another concern is, if you have an IEP goal and one of the objectives kind of has nothing to do with the rest of it, then that objective needs to turn into a separate goal. Sometimes people like to umbrella everything into just one goal. It's not that hard to keep data on more than one goal.
Right.
And a lot of times it's more useful, because then you can see exactly where you're improving. Because when you have too many objectives within a goal, you might show improvement on the goal, but in one area you're not improving at all, and you might even be regressing, but the overall goal makes it look like you're successful. So separate those and make it into a separate goal. Don't be shy when you see a goal to give feedback, whether it's you or your advocate together. If you think a goal's too crammed and there's too much junk going on there, separate it and make another goal. I can't say that enough, because oftentimes there's these just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a general, almost a generic goal.
Yeah. Like you almost feel like they cut and pasted it from somebody else's IEP.
What is it called again? An IEP, right? What does the I stand for?
Individualized.
Right. So there shouldn't be some kind of generic general goal. It needs to be for that child.
And I think really quickly, just to add into your point, also if you feel like the goal is not challenging the student enough, speak up. Because the whole goal is, or the reason for these goals and objectives is to push the student for greater learning, for achievement. So that's another area too that you want to be aware of. If you feel like it's just kind of a goal that's not enough, say that too.
Yeah, and if your goals aren't working, you can call an IEP
Absolutely.
meeting. Because if the goals aren't working, essentially your IEP is defective. And if it's defective, I mean, you're pretty much denying FAPE for your child. Not to get too far into the technical terms, but pretty much if the goals aren't working, the IEP is not being useful and we need to fix it.
It's not being implemented in a way that's supporting the student.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So you were talking a little bit about, collecting data along the way. And so what does that really mean? The data that's being collected is kind of the measurables on those goals. So all along the way, throughout the school year, the people who have set the goals, so perhaps the reading teacher, maybe there's a math goal, there is a speech and language goal. All of those people are responsible for collecting data throughout the year as to how the student is measuring up and reaching that goal. So maybe they're really making strides, maybe they've kind of flatlined, maybe even, as you mentioned, there's some regression. But all of that data collection is super important, and you really want to make sure that that is continuing throughout the year, because that data helps inform the next IEP meeting, number one, but it also helps inform whether or not that student may qualify or may need ESY, or extended school year. So we want to talk a little bit about that too. Now, not every student who accesses special education or a student with a disability qualifies for ESY.
Wait, is that summer school?
It is summer school. It looks different than I think what a lot of parents think.
Well, because summer school used to be
all summer long,
yeah,
on a traditional school day. Now, typically pretty much, at least here in our area, extended school year can be 4 to 6 weeks, and oftentimes those weeks are broken up into 2-week segments.
Is it going to be at your home school or designated?
It's usually at a designated building within the district or within your
One more question,
area.
will they provide transportation?
They do provide transportation.
If you qualify for
special education transportation. So if that's in your IEP, then yes, you will qualify for that. If you don't have special transportation during the school year, then you still are responsible for getting your child to that particular building. But in terms of what qualifies a student for ESY, there are several predictive factors, and some of those are the degree of the student's impairment. It could also be the rate or lack of rate of progress. It could be any kind of behavior or physical issues that have occurred through the year to where they didn't really get the full access to their education. But it also is in terms of whether or not a child actually makes regression, which they actually call recoupment. So if you come back from spring break and it takes your child...
Or winter break,
any break during the school year, if it takes or over the summer, if it takes your child additional ramp-up time to relearn what's already been learned, or if the child significantly regresses over that school break, and then when they come back, it takes them an extended period of time to get back to the level that they were before the break, then your child will probably qualify for ESY.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so there are two...
So it's just not something you can just... I want my child to have ESY. It's data-driven?
It's data-driven, okay. Yes, absolutely. So again, it's either regression or recoupment. Either after a break, the child falls significantly back from where they were, or it takes them a significant period of time to get back to where they were.
Okay, so basically, if you don't agree with the decision on ESY, ask to see the data.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to see what that looks like. Grades aren't necessarily a part of that, right? So if you feel like your students...
We're looking at the goal,
right,
data
that's right.
for the IEP goals,
That's
correct?
Exactly right.
Okay.
So just make sure that you know the difference between grades and the data, because that's what's really going to determine whether or not your child qualifies for ESY.
Okay, and you know what? That makes sense to me.
Okay. Any other questions around any of this? It's a lot.
No, it is a lot, but I think
it's good to break it down.
Yeah, I think I have something to stand on here.
Okay, good deal.
So.
All right.
Well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we have more Think Change trainings coming your way. We appreciate you spending the time, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.